does this say?
Thanks,
Cheryl,
Hal.
what does number 2 say, new agenda item?
Hold on one second, Perry. I'm trying to bring us into YouTube.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. You're looking at the agenda?
Yeah.
I think it's just to delete.
It's nothing. Ignore it.
All right. So
Ignore
what,
that.
are we recording and all that?
Yep.
Okay. So do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Wait, Perry, wait. Hold on a second. I gotta pull it up. I had a question, I think. Hold on, sorry.
Well, unless you want one of the pieces pulled off, you can just ask the question after we do the second, if you want, or you can pull the item off.
And if we pull it off, what happens when we pull it off? Because I gotta find it. That's it.
And you can discuss it.
Would
Okay.
it be treated like a separate agenda item?
Mhm.
Well, do tell me. It's just a couple of questions. Good.
Yeah, I think questions we can handle.
Are you ready for my questions?
No, we need a second.
Second.
All right. Any questions or comments or concerns? Good.
I have to find it. That's why I said, hold on a second.
Okay.
For Georgia Herring, the IB coordinator, are we,
Where?
it's at how many classes? Like that one, I just questioned that, I'm sorry, on extra class appointments 5.
Yeah.
What's happening with that? As far as because she's in 2 spots, IB coordinator with 40 minutes release. And then again, there's IB coordinator, like how many IB classes, I guess, are there? Like this is full pay. Is it not at half? Because I see there's half sections.
So she is teaching a full load.
Okay.
And as far as the IB goes, there is also in the contract, there is release time. So she's supposed to get the release time, but she's teaching a full load on top of that.
Okay. And I see it was already adjusted. It was fixed. There was something else about payment, and it's already been adjusted. Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay. All right, BOCES Spotlight, just, for your entertainment. Read at your leisure, as they say. Also, the welcome back from geez, I can't even speak. MHSCC, SSC. Just again, more, it's just information, read it. We can always discuss them. Next item on the agenda is the financial reports and warrants. Do I have a motion? Anybody?
So moved.
Thanks.
Donald jump at once.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against?
Aye.
I'm not sure who's, why don't we do that again? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm not getting, are some people muted or I'm not?
Ben's muted.
Yeah, Claudia, Jen, you guys are,
Aye.
all right. So,
I
all
unmuted for it.
right, one more time. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Any against? That's what we'll have to take and see. All right. Staffing needs. So this is where the hell are we? Staffing.
Perry, this is in response to just learning and listening from other districts who have implemented hybrids and learning from our own soft hybrid that we have. Right now, we have 34 students on campus, and hearing it loud and clear that folks wanted more staff to sort of layer up because there are things that were unexpected when people opened up for a hybrid. And so there's more supervision, the escorting of students to and from the isolation room or to the nurse or to the office or to their parents, class coverages due to 504 accommodations for staff, just regular sickness and shuffling between buildings and sort of borrowing staff to fill holes. And so thinking about having people in the building, we can most definitely put them to work. But if we don't have them, we're going to need them at some point. So thinking a little bit more into the future, saying we are going to have these needs. And I know that the board has offered a number of times, generously offered a number of times, in considering more staff or resources. So we're reconsidering your offer now that we're hearing what's on the ground. And in conversation with the administrative team, thinking that an aide and a monitor per building, that would be a total of 8 additional staff temporarily while we're in these situations, would benefit us and would help us immensely even when we have more kids coming in. Right now they're needed, but we foresee that there's going to be a higher need for this extra staff. I also know that
Hang on for a minute. There's some kind of weird background noise. If you're not speaking, can you mute yourself? Because it's,
yeah,
at least on mine, I'm hearing this, like, I don't know what it is. Sounds like somebody's cutting wood out in the yard or something. Go ahead, Laura, sorry.
Okay. Sorry, thank you for that. I heard that too. Holly has gone a little lean just at this time, but just while she's also living it, knowing that over time, she's going to have to add additional staff. We may have to include weekends and holidays to her workforce and her workload. So just anticipation of that. And then I know, Mike, I don't know if you want to speak to it, just what you're thinking about for custodial help.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so going over all the protocols, and we put together some layouts of what has to be done and what's going to be done every day. And we put some sheets on the bathrooms to be cleaned every hour. And I'm thinking that if we had 2 people more, just for whatever this takes, like whether it's going to be, I don't know, 4 months, 6 months, if it's the whole school year with social distancing, I don't know. But I'm thinking that, because what's going to happen is if somebody takes a vacation day or anything, we might be short staffed. But I think even with our full staff, we could do the job if we had to. But now with all the extra protocols and trying to think of, all the extra things that I want to have done every day. I mean, if I could have 2 people extra just temporarily until this is over, that would help me a lot, because that would help me on a normal day. And if somebody needs to take off or something, it would help me there. I'd have more people to bring in if I needed it. But I think when we go to a hybrid, and even now with some kids in the building, we're doing a lot of extra things just to keep the building safe.
So, I mean, we're talking, I know you're down a few people in different areas already.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then, so I'm assuming do the number, and this isn't just for you, Mike, it's for Caroline, it's for, operations in general, it's for the food staff. So does this change model by model? If you do AABB, you need 2 of these and 3 of those. But if you do the, K to 8, you need 6 of these and 5 of those. And then we need to see like a breakdown of, here's the people I'm talking about. Here's the, I'll call them levels because I don't really know what you call them, but
Right.
the levels of the people, the salaries, this, this one's temp, this one's permanent, and so that we can get a picture of, number one, the model. Because when we talk about hybrids next week, we're going to need, or well, later this week, we're going to need the, what is the impact, the financial impact of what we're reviewing. So, once we get a clear idea in our heads about which model, then it's what is this model going to cost? Because, I know a lot of the parents are, have asked for different models in the letters we've received, but I don't think anybody's really understanding the impact it's going to have on our overall budget.
Okay.
All right. So that's one of the things. And then, of course, making sure, I think you're down 3 since
Right
that,
now.
right? And then I think Holly was down a couple, or was that planned and now we want to bring them back?
That was a planned reduction in staff based on the needs of the cafeteria program right now. But like Laura had shared, we've just learned today that we're going to be able to serve lunches and breakfasts over the weekends and holidays again. So that's going to do 2 things for us, minimally 2 things. It's going to provide breakfast and lunch for those who need it over the weekends. It's also going to provide an additional revenue. But the third thing actually is it's going to provide a staffing need. So Holly is going to be looking to bring back some of those people that she said we weren't going to need.
No, and I mean, in all honesty, do you guys really think I've heard somebody earlier today or Friday said 6 or 8, one of the districts that went back now realizes they're overwhelmed and they're hiring like 6 or 8 people, cleaners.
Dover's looking for 6.
Yeah, I mean, I got to believe all these schools that have gone back are going to start looking, especially for temporary hires. You really think you can find these people?
Well, I've been interviewing one person every day for the last Friday, Monday, and today. I interviewed one a day because I can't really schedule more than that because we have a lot of things going on. And I have like 5 more to interview.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I
don't
mean,
do anything till I interview everybody. I want to get, the best I can get.
I think part of what we can review, and if we don't have time, we can push it to the next one, is how does this staffing line up to these hybrids? And, like how many, if we went with like K-5, Caroline, do you need, an extra monitor per class? I mean, I'm assuming when we split these classes, we've got to have somebody in both rooms.
Right.
But, so take a shot at, I think I need 3 cleaners, a maintenance person, 2 cafeteria workers, 7 teachers' aides, and 4 monitors, and please try not to be that many, but this is the, the level where these are the temporaries, these are the full-time, permanents. This is what it's going to cost. So we can really understand, and then we need to figure out, where we can get that money, probably move it back out of some of the earlier moves. But anyway, I mean, my opinion, we're gonna need people. You can't take one classroom and turn it into 2 and think that a teacher's gonna run back and forth up the hallway, screaming assignments. There's got to be some some realization that it's not free. And when I think we know that, we just need to know what the price tag is. And then what's optional. If you come in and say, geez, I'd be really good if I had 64 cleaners. Well, that's nice, Mike, but no. how would you like 2? You know, I mean, I think that's the way we're going to have to work through this. All right.
Yeah, thanks. We just wanted to put it on your radar.
Perry, or actually, Brian, I have a question. Did you say that we're now going to give food on the weekends? Did you say that?
Yeah, that's actually what we did pre-summer. We had a waiver to be able to provide food to families in need over the weekends. So not where that would be an actual separate transportation route where we would be delivering, but you know, on a Friday, as an example, they would get 6 meals. It would be 2 for Friday, 2 for Saturday, and 2 for Sunday, and that's funded by the USDA.
Okay, then if that's the case, I mean, if these food service workers are working 5 days a week, then I think there definitely needs to be some help up there, because now we're asking them to work 6, maybe 7 days a week. If it's, you know, I mean, I think that should be a priority, that they get help up there.
Yeah, they don't. Yep. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just said I think that should be a priority. I mean, if they're working 5 days, now they've got to work on a Saturday, or is it everything getting delivered on a Friday for the weekend? Is that how that is?
That's exactly right.
They're
That's
doing
exactly
double,
right.
So they're going to do double on a Friday.
The prep would triple. Yep, they would be providing lunches and breakfast for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for a Friday delivery, as an example.
So
Yeah.
that's all the more reason then they need help on then the food staff definitely needs more help for the weekend to help
Yes.
prepare that. I mean, that's got to be a priority.
So thanks for saying that. And Holly is paying attention to staffing. We had another conversation today, very, very carefully. So she has every intent of adding the people that she needs to be able to have. She knows that she has administrative and board support to add whomever she needs to be able to carry on the program. And frankly, she's just knowing that she needs to be self-sustaining. She's just being as responsible as she can to be sure that she's adding the people that she needs and not anybody that she doesn't, but she understands the support in terms of staffing level. So thanks for reiterating it again.
I don't want you guys to run into burnout, because that's what's going to happen. I mean, if these guys are running extra speed on Friday, then you know, then you're going to start from zero if you got to train somebody. But at least if somebody's there and they're working with somebody side by side, that's going to help out to alleviate. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't want to be burnout.
I do know what you mean, and I'm sure Holly would too. She's got a pretty good hold on this, so just appreciate that support very much, and we'll see what Holly comes to with her staffing pattern, and that may evolve over time.
And like I said, make sure that, you know, when we have this spreadsheet, make sure it links to each of the hybrid models, so that, you know, if it's important, you know, if there's $100,000 difference or a $300,000 difference in staffing by going from AABB to K through 5, that may end up driving as much of our decision as anything. So let's just, and I get it. You don't know exactly what the person's going to make, you know, depending on their experience and all those things. But I think we need to see that, and then we can figure out what to do with it as part of our discussion on hybrid.
That's something we'll be able to model for you pretty easily.
Okay.
Be happy to do that. Sure.
All right. Let's see. Yeah, and by the way, I just want to make sure everybody understands. I mean, the cafeteria workers have been incredible. I mean, throughout the, you know, all this COVID stuff from the day it started, our cleaners, our maintenance people, you know, have never taken a step back. You know, they just step up to the workload. And, you know, and I agree with Claudia. I think we need to really understand how much pressure and workload we're putting on these people, and make sure we're doing the right thing. So, all right. So let's go to item G, which is the remote learning experience week 1.
That we're going to start off with Elm. Michael Sotero.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
Hey, Mike.
So I'd like to begin by saying we're talking about it as a team today in some of the grade levels. And these first 6 days are going to be the most challenging. And we said, I wonder how that's different come October 1st, when someone's like, hey, how's the past week? When everything's up and running. So I think everyone's aware of that as it was, but, in talking to the grade levels, they were like, oh, we had this thing that we had to troubleshoot and this. And so there was a little bit of alarm at first when we were talking about, hey, let's share our experiences. But I think at this point, everyone's taking it from sort of a growth mindset, and that this is a process. And so I think now that we have that in our minds, I think it's a little easier to progress. So essentially, we had each grade share some things that are going well and some things that need attention. So across the board, we have seen students very excited to log in. We had the kindergarten team say, we've had multiple kids say, we love school. And for a kindergarten teacher to hear that in this setting, it's kind of double-sided. They're great. They're putting in all this effort behind the scenes. And so they're ecstatic that they love it. But then the teacher I was talking to said, your heart almost breaks because, this is such a unique way of experiencing it. So there's a lot of emotion torn down there. But one of the great things is that students are excited to log in. Participation, which I personally thought was going to be our biggest struggle at the lower level because of family situations, has been excellent. We've had full classes for a majority of each day, each week. And the classes that are not full, we have one student missing, but it's never constant absences. We don't have students stretched out for multiple days, not there. We have also seen more collaboration on grade level teams than we're used to having. Each grade level has collaborated together. They've created content, they've shared best practices, and they feel like this is something that's going to continue no matter what form it is that we take back. We're also starting to get into the flow of small group work and really emphasizing the workshop model. And so that's something, although we use it during the regular school day, we feel that once you're that one-to-one, especially in a remote setting or that one to small group, the impact is, besides all the external factors, it's almost more pure with the computer screen, because there is no other kids in class, over there distracting them, or they're not looking out the window ready to go to recess. So that's one of the positives there. Also parent communication. I mean, the parents are helping facilitate each day. So we've seen an increase in that. Usually you have a meet and greet, a parent night, and then it could go a couple days without having interaction with home. But whether we're troubleshooting issues on how to log in or computer, or just simply sharing out what the students are doing each day and having mom or dad or grandpa be right there, that home to school connection, by necessity, but as a positive, is much greater. In the area of grows, some areas that we need attention is obviously the technology piece. We have faculty members with different capacities for remote teaching, and we have the folks getting the training they need, but there is a learning curve. So we have some staff who some of them, when this began 6 days ago, didn't even know what they didn't know. But we've seen great strides in these 6 days. And folks are now starting to sort of spread out their creativity and say, okay, so I got my Google Classroom up. I know how to share my screen. All right, what's next? So really, we're trying to push that innovation, at least on a personal level. These are teachers who may not have ever done some of the things they're doing in their career. They've taught for 15 years. They never thought they could do this other thing. But now in the situation, they have to make these leaps and bounds. Some of the other grows are just realizing that there's some things that we can support, but we don't have a full handle on ourselves, meaning, each family situation is different. We have families who are fortunate enough to hire support in their homes and pod up together and hire, retired teachers to come in. But then at the same time, We have families who, you know, single parent, essential worker, and the students logging on from daycare. You know, we had one teacher who actually ended up talking to another child who wasn't even in our district because he was sitting in that boy's seat momentarily. So it's these external situations that we're just trying to level while we work with our kids. So the important part about the growth is that we're now beginning to identify what we really need. You know, instead of saying, I don't even know where to begin, it's like, all right, we've begun. We got it. We worked out the kinks. We have all this open communication with our families. Now we're starting to say, all right, I want to do this. What do I need? Or I can do this way for an intervention. That's really the growth part. And again, circling back, attendance, I thought was going to be our biggest struggle, you know, fearing like, what is it like? So I'm super pleased to hear that. What we knew was going to be difficult was the interaction with our students and just navigating a Chromebook. In some ways, our kindergartners and first graders are more tech savvy than most, but they're tech savvy on like this, and it's a touch tablet and they're moving it around. So when it comes time to operate a laptop with a trackpad, you know, that's a stretch too. So I joined some specials today, and seeing library, our teachers are doing a great job just teaching how to use a computer. You know, Miss Boson, our librarian, had a lot of students on her screen, and she said, instead of raising her hand, this is something we're going to do. And she was teaching these first graders about a chat and how to open up the grid. She said, I think she said it looked like a pancake. Click on that button. And then if you have something you want to tell me, that's a question, press the Q button. And she was teaching the students where that was and how to navigate. So in addition to teaching the content in the areas that you need to as a teacher, you know, teachers are now becoming tech support. They're becoming like computer, like navigators in their teaching of young students. So, I mean, challenge, but huge push and huge applause to some of these teachers to see what they're doing. So that's where we're at. You know, it's a work in progress. Our staff understands that. You know, it doesn't mean that they're not loving it, but they get that and they're open to grow. So that's where we are, K2.
Thanks, Mike.
I'm sorry, could you guys hear me too clearly? I'm trying to get my kids to stop watching The Mandalorian really loud in the other room. So I hope you guys didn't hear any sort of like Star Wars stuff in the background.
That's a great series. They could watch that. That's very good.
Well, they're rewatching it for the second time, so we could turn it down. But all right, so speaking of Star Wars, we got a Star Wars fan running Alden. Hello, Tom.
Tom, you're not, no. Hey, well, Tom figures that out. I actually have, you know, for once, experience this week. For those that I think everybody knows, but I have a daughter, Sarah, that teaches third grade in Millbrook. My wife is the registrar in Millbrook. I have 3 grandchildren, a first grader, a third grader, and a fifth grader. And I've been taking care, while Sarah's teaching downstairs in the house, I'm taking care of the 3 grandchildren upstairs and whatever happens. And quite honestly, I've been pretty bored. I mean, my fifth grader just smokes it. I mean, all I ever get from her is this, you know, hey, everything good? You know, the way it's been run, the way the kids are responding has just been, it's been amazing to me. And I've been listening, you know, sort of listening to what's going on in the different classes, and they're making such progress that they did art projects, you know, going outside, getting stuff from the woods, bringing it in, making an art project out of it. They're not just sitting in front of a computer screen. I haven't, like I said, we had 3, well, there's me as well on my computer, 3 of my grandchildren on their computers, my daughter teaching on her computer downstairs. And other than, I think the first week there was some Google, blow up that got in our way a little bit. But other than that, it's been pretty amazing. I will throw a challenge though, Elliot. It is way too complex. Finding, the 9 passwords, finding where this classroom is and how it gets me here. And there should be a much more streamlined, and as the teachers, I would expect, get more experience. They've got to have their ideas, but this is where, the new person and you and Sean should be looking at how can you streamline. I don't know the middle school and high school, we'll get to them in a second, but if this thing could be more streamlined so the kids aren't trying to figure out, which classroom, which day, which, is it this software package, that software package, is that my password over here, my password over there? If that, I think, is probably the biggest issue I saw all week. And like I said, I mean, other than my 3rd grader likes to work with her feet up on the desk, and I keep telling her that's not the way you do it at school. Other than that, they've been just doing it, just having a great time, and they're, talking with their friends. And so anyway, that's my experience as a grandfather. I thought you were going to trash when you said grandfather, Mike. I thought you were going to trash the grandfathers, and I just was going to cut that back. Anyway, Tom, did you get your mic working? Bad sore throat or what? Well, Caroline, can you help Tom out here, or maybe Mike, you can, I don't know if you guys have talked about Alden.
So I know that the 2 buildings are following a similar schedule, and Tom has persons in school. So she's got 11 students who are coming in daily for special class programs. And while they're there, they're actually also remoting into their co-taught classes so that they can be with their education peers. Tom also has some of the students who are getting the both virtual and in-person related services in his building. So Alden certainly has a lot of traffic, internet traffic right now. Tom, if you're ready, you can pick up. No. But so there's been a lot of positive feedback. There were some working out some kinks just with scheduling and getting transportation schedules all set with the related services, because that is one big puzzle. But everything has been pretty smooth, actually, while we were working on getting all of those things figured out. Tom's staff has welcomed those students, and they're doing a great job with their remote teaching as well. So they've figured out a schedule where they're able to accommodate, because they are one of the quote unquote hybrid buildings right now. So they've been able to accommodate the remote learning and fit that in with the students who are in person so that everyone has access to their specials. So he's actually seeing, the future, a little bit of what it will look like in the future for some of the buildings. And he's also seeing the remote instructional piece live, because our students who are in person for special class, some of them actually go into co-taught programs for some of their learning. So Tom's actually been able to experience a combination of all of that. And from everything I'm hearing, it's working quite well. The Google Classroom, like you had said, Perry, getting everyone into their Google Classrooms was a little bit of an experience, but like we talked about today, I think this 6 days is probably the most complicated 6 days that we'll experience in the school year. And I feel like so many of the minor issues that presented themselves have been worked out. And I feel like, the next 6 days and thereafter are going to be so much smoother.
So Caroline, let me, just a question, like a process. So one of the things I noticed as during the week was that the teachers were jumping on to take care of things like, I can't connect to that, or I don't know, where do I go for this? And they were sharing their screens and all those, I mean, doing a great job. My issue is sort of those are short-term short-term resolutions. Are you guys collecting this stuff so that you can get it to Elliot and get it to his staff and say, look, we need to streamline these things, or we need a single system sign-on, or whatever it is? I'm hoping that you guys are capturing those things, because this is invaluable experience. And if you think about it, I mean, this given that some parents have said they're probably not sending their kids back this year,
Right.
this could affect us for, the rest of this school year and who knows how long. So
Right.
I really,
So-
I sort of made a joke about, challenging you, Elliot, but I mean, this is we need somebody to go in there and triage everything that's happened in the first week, second week, third week, and then put this together and, start taking those little obstacles out of the way.
Yes. So I think there's a multifaceted answer to that question. First, in terms of any of the hiccups that the teachers are experiencing, our new hire, Kirsten Calkins, has been amazing because she's actually tracking a lot of the feedback that she's getting, and then she's rolling that into training sessions for the adults. Which is extremely helpful. Some of that is being recorded and some of that will be shareable for folks at home. But also when it's Elliot's turn to speak tonight, he's going to give you a little bit of an overview on the tech concerns that they've heard so far. Help desk, he's been tracking a lot of data and very specific to the past 6 days. So he's taken out data prior and just looking at the past 6 days so that he can troubleshoot and so that he can plan for the future for any events where we might have to shift once we go to hybrid, if we have to shift back to a remote learning platform. He's been looking at all of this to make sure that everything remains feasible, and if there's any things to be worked out, he can get ahead of them. So he has some data for you all.
Yeah, one weird thing, I think I mentioned it to Mike earlier. One thing I have noticed is, and it's very rare, but I think some teachers, go to make a music file or an audio file, and they make it on a Mac, and then they don't really pay attention to like how they're storing it.
Right.
So it ends up where it won't play on a Chromebook,
Right.
or it won't play. There was something today that was, asking the kids to download some software to convert it, and I think a lot of that is just, look, if you're going to make a music file, you make this type. If you're going to make a video file, you make this type. And then we're out of that, those issues. But that's, I mean, we need to really take everything we learned the last week and this week and next week and do the best we possibly can to make this an environment that, really allows us to crush the school year no matter what happens.
Yeah. And I mean, kudos to many of the staff, because we had our superintendent's conference days and we did what was called an ed camp style conference setup where teachers were allowed to really sort of drive that learning. And what we saw is not just Kirsten, but other teachers as well, like you're saying, Perry, who maybe had experience with making videos or making music and recording it. They stepped up and they actually did sessions for their colleagues, and just that exact thing, like how to create a YouTube channel, how to create these videos so that you can archive them in a password protected place where if you need them again at some point, they're there, they're saved. Teachers have been experiencing how to do it on Google Classroom and where to archive and save some of their work, because we don't know when we're going to need this again. So people are feeling, I think, more confident than ever that, the work that they put into it right now, if ever in the future we find ourselves in this circumstance again, they're not going to have to recreate all of this, because for some of them, it is anxiety provoking, right? They've taught in one platform for so many years, and now they're being asked to redo all of this in a digital world that maybe they are not digital natives. And, this is a very unique experience for some of them. So Elliot has more data on that, but I think all in all, everyone's really band together to try and make it successful for everyone.
Did that cover it, Tom?
Almost. Is it on now?
Now you got your, oh, man.
It is on?
Yeah, it's on.
Oh, all right. Well, I just had a couple things to add, I guess. And so I just wanted to start with good evening. And so I wanted to start with Mrs. Stewart's classroom, our special classroom, and just talk to that a little bit. So in our building, I think we had a preconceived notion of what to expect, and we planned for it. And it really, we're using that as a testing ground to make sure that we can handle a variety of things in the building, and it worked very well. So we have like 7 to 9 students in there at different times, and they're giving us practice for a return to either the hybrid or the full groups of students. So we're practicing things like arrival and dismissal with the buses, parent pickups, and walkers. We're practicing how our lunch is delivered to the classroom and how students are eating lunch at their desk. And the desks are, have social distancing planned in there. The breaks the students are taking, they're using the bathroom properly. They're using the water filling station. They're using the lines on the floor, walking on the right side, waiting in line at those spots that are marked on the floor, and keeping socially distanced as even they line up. And like I said, if there are only 9 of them, they're lining up for buses and leaving school in a set pattern. So that's been really good. We hope to practice next week or toward the maybe even tomorrow, the synchronous instruction and in-person instruction model, where we have the teacher teaching remotely to one student, and then the rest of the students in class. And so that's a challenge. I hope it'll work well. And then also the idea of having remote teachers teaching to those kids in the classroom, the reverse of that. So we have some teachers that are off-site that are teaching to those students in the special classroom, or at least a pull-out course to some of those students. So it's a challenge. One of our teacher comments that really struck me is, and when everybody had some anxiety building as we moved toward this opening week, the teacher said, "You set the tone, you choose what the mood will be." And I think that's really passed well to our students. They've performed well with that in mind. So I had some teacher reactions also that I just wanted to share out. We wondered what was going well, and then what also needed some attention. What do we find is a difficult situation for us? And so let me start out with what's going well. In no particular order except how they were put on this chart I have. So they really love the mini lesson and independent work phase that we started this with. I think it's working well, and students are staying enthusiastic with that idea that they can go off and work independently. Across the board, teachers stated that they're getting a lot of positive feedback from parents as well as students, and that goes for our special area teachers as well as the homeroom teachers. They like the discussions with the students. The discussions online appear to be a little bit more focused and on track, and because they've laid out some great ground rules ahead of time for the classes, and so the kids are following those rules pretty well. But also on a needing attention, they also said we have to learn how to work with those that are using the chat bar incorrectly, and how do we sort of train the students to be a little bit better with that. Building routines is happening in the Google classrooms. They also spoke to great attendance, which I think I was anticipating that we might have challenges because of some of the feedback we received from parents and so on. But I did look at the attendance. So out of 7 days, we had 9 students at each level missing, or 9 missed attendance days by students, which is incredibly high attendance, 98% attendance at this point. So it's pretty good. And let's see, one more that I would add. Oh, I do want to talk about a couple special area classrooms. First of all, in music, the teacher responded with she's learning new skills in recording and creating practice tracks. And that's one of those areas that I just wanted to, also give kudos to the tech department, because they've not only had an incredible turnaround on those Chromebooks, getting them out and ready to go. And if you think about it, the students had them on a Friday and then they had to perform with them on Monday. Incredible students that they were able to figure that out and get online on Monday. When we've had trouble, the turnaround is really great. We're getting student Chromebooks in and then back out very quick. And then also the new tools to use. Kirsten is amazing. Elliot, Sean, James, very good. So that was from her. And the library end, I like just another Mrs. Boson thing. Mrs. Boson figured out a way to get the library check-in, check-out system. I guess you check out and then check in system up and running. And so this morning it was kind of a surprise. I looked in there. We have a bin in our doorway, and there was a book in there. And I thought, all right, so something's working here. We get the library book returned. On difficulties that we're having, let's see, I don't think there are a lot of repetitions in difficulties, except that people are wondering when they can take breaks. We didn't plan, at least in my schedule I drew up, I didn't plan a passing time because, hey, they're in their homes in the same place. So I didn't plan that passing time, but we'll have to talk that over. We did talk about it a little bit yesterday in a faculty meeting, but we'll talk about how to build in some of that. And I think we thought that students would be working independently for the maybe up to the second half of the class, and checking in with teachers and so on, and that they would build in some of those breaks themselves. We also thought, I guess across the board, one problem that we're having is that having kids check on their emails at our level is really difficult. And I know Mike mentioned that along with, I don't know if Mike mentioned that one, but I think that it's a difficult thing across the grade levels that we have. And when I do those morning announcements, I think somebody asked if every once in a while I'll get a reply on the morning announcements to students, and I'm starting to get more at this point. So they're checking the emails they somewhat, and they're responding. And I just want to say that last spring I charted how many emails I was getting from students, or their class was producing, I guess. And fourth grade by far, they were hands down way up there and so on. So fourth grade, in 7 days, they passed 500 emails, which is an amazing amount of emails for the 60 students. So it was kind of interesting. So it's starting already. I think as maybe Perry said, I think we're moving forward, and we're getting better and better as we go with this. So kudos to our staff, kudos to the administrative team, parents. You're wonderful. So great job.
Very good. Thanks, Tom.
Can I ask a quick question? Caroline, I don't know if this is too hard, but you'd mentioned, I thought you said Kirsten might be doing adult learning sessions. Does that mean like she might be helping the parents out with finding their way on the computer?
Yeah, we've been talking about creating a schedule for almost like a parent university, family university, to be able to do some of that stuff and other stuff as well, but being able to assist with some of that.
All right, so it's not like it's set up already. Like, would you put it on the website or send an email out to parents to let them know about it? Okay. I just wanted to throw something really quick out to, I was gonna jump in after Mike did his thing, but I am a full-time working mom. My husband works, he's not home, and my daughter is in 2nd grade. And it is, I completely understand the frustrations and the joys also. I just wanted to say the teachers that I have come across have exhibited such patience. I do not have anywhere near their patience. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that as a parent, I appreciate that, because the muting and unmuting, the dogs bark, you know, the things that can go on with these little kids, I'm ready to jump through the screen, you know, and or jump out the front door. They have such patience, and I so appreciate that. And I appreciate Mike addressing all the stuff. And Elliot, I've probably emailed and called you about 20 times. So I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of any parent that feels the way that I do. There's a lot of good, and there are a lot, you know, and there's also the things that we need to fix, and I'm sure it's going to happen. And I know it's, you know, just an unprecedented time. So I just want to say thank you. And again, the patience, these people are saints. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that.
I like that idea, though. I mean, of a parents' university. I mean, even if you set up like their actual students and make them open their assignments and take a picture of it and forward the picture and mark it as done. If there's one thing that's just like drives me nuts, is that mark it as done, because I can't figure. I'll watch him finish something, and then it's like, where the hell is the mark is done? And you got to like bounce around back to find it. But you know, if you did that for the parents, that might be a really great way to jumpstart them out to where their kids are going to be. You know,
if I can jump in for 1 second too, something that we've been trying to do at each of the building levels, along with it's happening in concert with Kirsten as well as Elliot, is that we've been trying to post on our actual school pages help for parents. So I know that on many of our pages, we have like a get to know Google Classroom and how to utilize that. That's there specifically for parents to assist in that process. And we're hoping to you know, have more of those things as those issues come up. So I think at this turn, is it my turn, Meow? All right. So got a few things here. First, I want to just follow up on the work pre-distance learning. Last I spoke with everybody, we were talking about some of the things that were coming up, things like 6th grade digital orientation. We were running out in all student digital assembly. I want to report out that I think those things both went really, really well. Our 6th grade digital orientation, I got to say, is one of the more uplifting moments I've had as the middle school principal. We had probably 80%, if not more, of our students and their families on the screen. As we ran through about a 30-minute presentation that not only covered distance learning, but it also talked about just all the things that make the transition from 5th grade to 6th grade unique and different. We had kids on the screen, they were clapping. There was a digital walkthrough of the building that went through what will be their future 6th grade classrooms. It also did a walkthrough of the building to show some of the incredible safety procedures and work that our custodial staff and Mike's group have done to just really outfit this building well before they ever will enter. So I just want to say that those went really, really well. I got so much feedback from students, from parents, just saying that they really feel like middle schoolers and they haven't even entered the building physically. So I just think it was really well received and went really well. The all student presentation, again, was a breakdown of all the things to expect from middle school, but also included a digital walkthrough so that students could see some of these things that they will be encountering, hopefully eventually this year, sooner rather than later. So that was really great as well, and another way for our students to start to kind of build that capacity for what will eventually come when they do enter the building. So just wanted to follow up on that before I got into distance learning. As far as even before we get to distance learning, the middle school is also a building that currently is housing just under 20 students daily. We have students situated in 4 different classrooms. We have a classroom for 6th grade students, one for 7th, and one for 8th. Our 4th room is used as kind of a transition room, and every student throughout the group has their own desk there that's clearly marked, so nobody ever sits at that desk when they're making certain transitions, to assist with times when in-person instruction is happening for some students within their grade level, but they may be receiving digital learning from another grade level. So I just got to say, I cannot say enough about our students and their capacity and their grit and dexterity throughout all of this. Our students walk in every day. They have their masks on. They walk on the right side with those clearly marked arrows. They're using the fill stations. They're going to the bathroom one at a time. When they exit the building, we've, again, on a small level, started to create those exit protocols. So on the ground, Mike and his team have very clearly marked off 6-foot lines. So the students know that when they leave, they go over to the 6-foot line, they stay on a line. They know if they are family members, they stay in the same line. All students have masks on. And then the way they depart the building is actually in the order in which they leave the bus in reverse. And this has happened, it sounds complicated, but very seamlessly for the kids. They know I'm one of the back kids, so I enter the bus first. I'm second to last. I enter second. And then that way, when they're on the buses, they're not passing each other either. So many of these protocols that we were certainly concerned about and had worries about, whether it be keeping masks on, whether it's walking in the hallways with appropriate distancing, whether it be, the way students typically like to put hands on one another in a joking fashion. We haven't seen any of that for the most part within reason. And the kids have done a really, really good job here in the building. As far as the learning in person, I think the hardest part for some teachers, they're still getting used to not only the certain protocols when you're teaching in person, wearing a mask and doing those things, but for some of our teachers, they're teaching students in person while also having other students on the computer. So, for some people, that's happening faster than others. And some are adapting to that new form of education for them in the classroom. So that's certainly something we've been working with and trying to work towards to the benefit of our students. For our students who are here in the building, they are receiving some in-person learning, but they are also receiving their distance learning. So we've just been seeing them adapting to that kind of right in front of our faces, which has been interesting to see how they maneuver going from one class to the next. And again, Tom, I think, said it really best that in a kind of micro version, right now we're seeing that the different things like lunch being brought up or when they have their breakfast, all of these are happening on a much smaller level and have been going very, very smoothly. So on a small level, that's been a very positive thing to report. As far as our distance learning, today, actually probably midday today, both myself and Mr. Sipe at the high school, much of the work we're doing at the middle school, we are constantly doing in concert with the high school. As the 2 secondary buildings, we've been working really hard over the last 2 years. And I would say this is not a distance learning thing. This has just always been a belief of us through the administrative team here that we wanted to see consistency at our elementary levels. We want to see consistency at our secondary levels. And then obviously we want to have a good K through 12 continuum. So Mr. Sipe and I have really been coming together a lot and trying to make sure that everything that we are doing looks similar and that we're working together on a lot of these systems. So midday today, we did release our first student feedback form. It's been less than 10 hours and we already have 83 respondents across grades 6 through 12. So from the middle school only perspective, to give you an idea of the kinds of things we're asking about, we're getting an idea of what grade level these students are at. We're doing a social emotional check. So asking them how they are feeling currently, and then utilizing that information to also help us to provide social emotional supports for the students who maybe are struggling, our students that are saying that they're overwhelmed or freaking out. Then we asked kind of our staple educational questions, asking about things like how they feel about the amount of assignments they were able to complete. Were they able to manage their workload? Do they feel that they are being able to utilize their subject area skills and strategies? Were they able to get feedback from their teachers when needed? And how often were they able to get that direct instruction and synchronous instruction from their teachers? I'm very happy to say that at the middle school, all of the respondents, we are seeing about an average of 75% being proficient or highly effective in this area. So of the highest basic rating that they had. In the area of concern for me walking into this, I was certainly concerned about attendance. And our students are, with attendance, we're getting about 92% attendance based on data also collected from a teacher survey that we did at the same time with our teachers. So as the middle school and high school, we wanted to get feedback from the students. We also did the same thing with our teachers. So by the end of today, as of right now, all of my teachers, I think, short of a handful, have responded to that survey as well, and are also reporting very high attendance. The percentages all leaning to a highly effective or very effective area in work completion, as well as the teacher's ability personally to manage the workload via distance learning. And also in the areas of the work that they're getting completed. I got to be honest, that was one of the lower areas in the middle school, but I want to chalk that up to what I believe is a lot of social emotional learning and education that's going on right now. I think particularly at the middle school, we see a lot of teachers that aren't necessarily diving into their content areas at this time. I think there's a lot of getting to know you situations, trying to figure out where our students are at. And I think that plays a large role in that. And then just as a general feeling, I think with our educators, I'm hearing everything from teachers who are saying that they love the way distance learning is going, and that it's really going very smoothly and students are doing all of their work, to other teachers are saying they're struggling and they're having a time adapting to this new area, a new way of learning. So it's not perfect. And in asking our teachers about how they felt about distance learning, I think many of them stated very clearly that it's not perfect, but they're making the best of it, and that they will continue to do so. So to just finalize and kind of wrap up where we are at, and I kind of started here when I jumped in for a second, I'm going to kind of end with this. I know that as a middle school, and I can speak as an administrative team, we have been spending a whole lot of time together. And that includes Elliot, and then working with Kirsten in her role, because the technological piece is so important. So I do want to give kudos to our administrative team, actually to our teachers who've helped even us, the administrators, to do things like creating our own Google Classrooms. So, in the middle school and the high school, and I believe in Alden and Elm as well, as administrators, we've created our own Google Classrooms to work with our teachers, to disseminate not only information to them in a streamlined fashion, but one of my teachers who was so incredible in setting it up and helping with it, we have a whole area to help with online learning. So we have our own learning community going on for teachers to have a place that they can go. And I know that Elliot's doing a lot of that work with Kirsten as well. And Caroline through the curriculum and instruction piece has also been supporting that. So a lot of good things. There are definitely trials and tribulations. We are doing our best through the distance learning piece, and as well in our little mini hybrid that we have going on at the middle school, to do the best we can for right now.
Hey, Steve, just a quick question.
Yes.
When you say attendance at the middle school, and it's same question for the high school, are you talking about period by period or class by class, or like once a day attendance?
So that's a really tricky question. That's a little difficult when you get to the secondary level. So when I'm speaking about attendance, we did a survey question for our teachers. And so we asked essentially the broad question of how is attendance going? And the data that I'm giving you is based on the information from the teachers. So it's more of a period to period attendance breakdown there, I would say, but a very high number nonetheless. I think totally indicative of a normal attendance that we would see at the middle school, if not higher, to be honest.
Yeah, no, my concern was, were we getting kids that were coming in, going to periods 1 and 2, hey, period 3, whatever that is, I skip that, I go to 4 because nobody can see me,
Yeah, and I would say, listen, I would tell you that when I'm giving that number, that's a period home base to period 9 average number. I will be very honest, and one of the issues that we face is with the kind of coming and going of students and managing that in that fashion. So we're definitely working obviously with individual students and families, and as we always do with all our tiered interventions with students when we have those issues.
And I could chime in here as well. So at the high school specifically, so we have 295 students enrolled at the high school, and we've had a total of only 9 absences to date. Certainly there have been some trickling here and there by period, but thank you to Mrs. Mattis who pulled that report to me. Our attendance is very, very good so far to start the school year.
I could say one thing. I have daughters in 6th and 8th grade, and it's been a great transition. The first couple days was a little, rocky, but spirits are high. The orientation was great. So Steve, that was a great job. It was very, the kids were clapping for the teachers, and it was good high energy. So it was great.
It was.
But it's really clicking. And, my concern being the primary educator at home with a full-time job. And my wife said I could say that publicly. She's okay with it. But no, normally last year I was up till 10 o'clock at night doing homework with the kids, and it hasn't been that. So I really do appreciate that, because I think they are clicking during the day and they're not overloaded at night. It's a minimal amount they have, a little vocab here and a little stuff there, but so far so good. So I appreciate it.
And thank you for saying that. And actually reminds me of something else I wanted to say. So certainly we've been trying to be mindful of, and I kind of said this in the last meeting about homework and this idea that kind of all the work is at home for the majority of our students, but trying to be mindful of how as teams and as grade levels that we make sure we're providing assignments that are streamlined and that, we are directly educating and then doing that work in that gradual release. But another thing I wanted to share too about my teaching staff that's been really great is that we set up an entire schedule in the middle school where all of my teachers shared out with me the links to their classes. So one thing that I get to do every day, and I gotta say at this time, it's almost more often than I get to when we're in person. I'm able to jump in and out of classrooms on a regular basis, which is really fun for me because I get to see the kids. I get to see all the amazing things that are happening in all of our classrooms. And I gotta say, I probably jumped into anywhere from 20 to 30 different classrooms. And every time I walk in, figuratively walk in, I'm just seeing these lessons that are so engaging, that look very similar to the ones we see in-person instruction. Our teachers are providing, the same things we've done as a school to watch, right? We're putting up objectives, we're giving measurable goals. So I've been just so impressed and appreciative of not only the teachers allowing me to jump in and out, again, for non-evaluative purposes, but just to kind of check in with the kids and so that I can report out to you guys about the things that I'm seeing in the classroom across all content areas. It's just been fantastic in that sense.
All right, so I think I'm up unless there's other questions or comments. All right, so good evening. Hi, everyone. So I know it's already been said, but my report is based on feedback from our faculty and students based on only 6 days of instruction. So I just ask that you keep that in mind as I report out. So one of my activities at our faculty meeting yesterday was to list all of the successes and challenges of remote learning at our high school so far. So I'll highlight our successes first. As I just shared, our attendance has been greatly improved compared to the spring. And this is a huge early success. As you know, students need to be present to learn the teaching material. Additionally, our current remote model is more structured than compared to the spring, obviously allowing for synchronous learning every period, every day. Also, our teachers are using a multitude of different programs. In addition, the feedback from our teachers is that most of our students seem comfortable learning from their own homes. Screen sharing is easy for students to see and use. Teachers have shared that along with the quality instruction that's taking place, obviously everyone is safe while doing so. Another key success is, and I think this is already mentioned earlier, but the teacher collaboration time daily. So this time that teachers get to spend time together or with someone like Ms. Calkins to get them up and running is another huge success at the high school. In addition, teachers are able to easily collect data for formative assessments. And teachers are becoming more and more comfortable with some of the technology. Most of them have reported that they're still learning and improving, but they are feeling more and more comfortable. Some of the challenges, the early challenges, include some of the students are not logging into their classes on time. Obviously, we could better manage this if the students were in school. Another challenge is that there are some more distractions for both students and teachers. We have some technical and Wi-Fi issues, not a lot, but certainly some. Some examples are when students' computers are simply freezing, or their cameras don't work, or they're having microphone issues through their Google Meets. And that stops from a period of time, which sometimes disrupts the instruction. And just generally, sometimes it's just more challenging to have group discussions. I can't speak specifically to this, but I believe Google Meet is going to have similar features to Zoom in this respect. And we hope to change this challenge into a success. And that is really true for some of our other challenges that we will work through as well. In addition to our successes and challenges, we sent out our student feedback survey that Mr. Cabello had mentioned. And as of this evening, roughly 20% of our students in the high school have responded. So yes, it's a small sample. However, this student survey tells us that, let's see, so 27% of our students do not like remote learning and they want to be in school. 20% feel that it is better than they expected. 25% have responded that it has its pluses and minuses. 20% feel that it's not perfect, but they're certainly making the most of it. And 8% say that it's amazing. Overall, most of the students have been able to complete all their assignments last week. Most of our students have also been able to prioritize, plan, and manage their workload. Most of our students are getting the necessary feedback required. And most of our students are getting some form of direct instruction. And those students who did have some technical difficulties that were shared earlier with our colleagues, those challenges have kind of diminished a little bit. So those have improved. And then lastly, at the high school, approximately 50% of our high school teachers completed the survey that Mr. Cabello was referring to. And overall, the majority are very happy to be back at work. A very select few are overwhelmed, understandably so. Many are reporting students are completing most of their assignments, which is consistent with the data that I shared in terms of what the students had shared. Some have reported students are experiencing the technical issues. Again, that's consistent with the student survey. Again, as I shared in the data from what Mrs. Mattis had shared with me, attendance is very good. Student engagement is average to above average. And the majority of our teachers feel that distance learning has been better than they had anticipated. They have also shared some constructive feedback that is definitely helpful. And we can discuss it with our admin team to see if we could better support them for the duration of our time working remotely. And again, I, as everybody else has, I just want to thank my staff and the admin team as well for their support in helping with this report tonight. So that's your high school update.
Does that mean I'm up? I guess I'll talk about district technology. So we're in 100% remote learning with the few exceptions of on-campus students. And I'd love to say that there are no issues, but we all know the nature of technology. So we've had some hiccups, but I wanted to give the board just some numbers and some feedback on what's been happening from a tech perspective. So we'll start with our Chromebooks. My team provisioned 174 Chromebooks for our youngest learners at Elm Drive. These are new devices to that entire school. We've re-provisioned 144 brand new devices to go into the hands of our 6th and 9th graders, as they will hold on to those as part of the formal one-to-one initiative throughout their time at their middle school and high school respectively. We talked a lot about Google Meets, so I will address some of the challenges in a minute, but I wanted to share with the board some of the highlights of our online experiences. So we have some pretty incredible data available to us through the administrative console, and some of the more impressive numbers are the average duration of our Google Meet sessions has been 33 minutes in the first 6 days of school. Again, all these statistics are just from last Monday to yesterday. The number of Google Meet sessions we had in our first 6 days of school are 2,895. I'll say that again because it struck me down when I first read it. 2,895 Google Meets in 6 days. That is the meat of how we're teaching and learning right now. And in those meetings, our network congestion has been, our actual network congestion number has been 2.48%. That means out of all of those meetings, we've experienced congestion in just about 2.5% of them. And Google's recommendation for a successful program is to keep that number under 10%. So we're well within range on that one. Packet loss is another techie term, but that just describes lost information, right? Things that get lost in transmission. For us, our packet loss has been 0.37%. And the recommendation from Google is to keep that number south of 3%. So we're not even at 1% on packet loss, which is pretty incredible considering the volume of information we're sending in and out of campus. I want to speak to some of the challenges that we've had. So, you know, the network by and large has been working very well. Google is doing what we expect it to do, our increased bandwidth. So thank you to the board for supporting us and increasing our bandwidth, and Laura and Brian for really helping get that done. But we're not experiencing bandwidth issues as a district. We are experiencing some challenges in one of our buildings, specifically at Elm Drive Elementary. So just to really give the board a simple snapshot of what's happening, you know, Elm Drive is the off-campus building, right? So our 3 main buildings, Alden, the middle school, and the high school, are interconnected through fiber optic cabling. It's a high-speed connection in between buildings to our main server array at the middle school. Elm Drive is kind of an outlier. While it's not far away, it's not a fiber connection. It has, it already starts out the conversation with less bandwidth capacity than the other 3 buildings. And Elm Drive in recent years wasn't really intended to deal with the kind of network traffic that our middle school and high school are. But as we started to investigate and track things that are happening in the last 6 days, and even as recently as today, we're realizing that the bandwidth output of Elm Drive is mirroring that of Alden and even the middle school to by a per classroom calculation. So we're going to have to look into that a little bit deeper very quickly. We're going to continue to analyze. We've engaged our third-party contractors through BOCES to start tracking that bandwidth specifically to see what devices and what systems are drawing on our bandwidth. But we are very likely going to have to put some work into increasing the capacity of Elm Drive as we continue in this remote learning and even in a hybrid model. If we have Elm Drive learners that are going to be at home, we're going to continue to broadcast our classrooms out of that building, broadcast students into it. And so the need, I don't foresee the need going away in the foreseeable future, at least for this school year. So that's just something to consider. I want to thank my colleagues here for cheerleading. My team has been incredible, and the help desk has been fielding more tickets than they have in the past. I mean, we have over 1,000 devices provisioned and on the street right now between staff and students, and we're supporting it with a team of 3. So I give them all the credit in the world for how they've been able to keep up. And I want to speak about Kirsten. Kirsten's been amazing. She's a wonderful addition to our team. She's been with us literally a little more than 2 weeks. And I wanted to share with the board some of the statistics of Kirsten's work. So in her first 2 weeks working for us, she's held a total of 63 interactive training sessions. 51 of them were live in person and in small, whether one-on-one or in small groups, and 12 of them have been virtual. The common topics that are coming up are Google Classroom, Google Meets. There are some needs for instructional and technical conversations that dovetail together. So one of the things that I'm doing with Kirsten this week is we're going to be working with our Alden teachers tomorrow and our Elm teachers on Thursday to show them how to maximize the effectiveness of a multiple display classroom setup, where we're going to show them how to interface their laptop with the smartboard, both to maximize remote learning and remote instruction, but also in preparation of moving towards a hybrid model where they're going to be providing displays and instruction to students that are in front of them and students that are at home. And as we move through this process, we're going to continue to partner on training pieces like that. Kirsten's been doing a great job of really tracking the needs of our teachers and trying to identify solutions that are either low cost or no cost, and running them by myself, by Caroline, by the building principals. She's already come up with a short list of really effective programs that we're going to look at piloting in the next couple of months. I don't want to get too deep into it because it's still very much early on in the process, but I can't speak enough to how quickly she hit the ground running and started to connect with our teachers immediately. I mean, in 2 weeks, she's connected with almost half of our teaching staff, which is pretty incredible. And that doesn't count the 2 live sessions she held during Superintendent's Conference Week that each had over 100 attendees. So kudos to Kirsten and the work that she's doing. Like I said, we're gonna keep focusing on what we do. We have given out Wi-Fi access at home to over 10 families, over 15 students. So we still have some equipment there available for those families in need. If you are watching this meeting and you're a family that needs assistance with acquiring home internet access, please contact my office. Contact me directly, and we'll try to get you set up as soon as we can.
Hey, Elliot.
I think that's pretty much it. I did record the request for single login capabilities, and that's something that's a little trickier with Chromebooks, but I'm definitely going to look into that. Perry brought that up earlier. And as was referenced a couple of times already, we're going to look to do a family and parent university to help indoctrinate our parents into this online learning environment. We've spent a lot of time specifically focusing on our Elm families, as this is new to almost everybody in that group. I mean, parents, students, staff. We're trying to give as much attention as we can where it's needed.
Elliot.
So, any questions from me?
Elliot, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Perry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing.
I can hear you, Perry.
Yeah, but I want to talk to the computer guy.
Sorry about that. My audio dropped out. Go ahead.
No, so I know you guys are up to your ears, but have you started looking at the models that would be used if we went with one of these? We discussed it at the last meeting, where every class, the teacher would be someplace, and every class would be split into 2, really 3. There would be the classroom 1, classroom 2, and then the people at home. Have you guys started looking into that model and how we could make that model, fair? You don't want the kids in one room to say, how come we don't get the teacher, or the teacher goes every other day, or then the kids at home don't get a teacher. Have you guys started looking into that model, and does Kirsten have any experience with that kind of model?
I'll speak to the technical piece of it. So we've looked at a couple of different options, right? We're going to look at optimizing larger spaces to be able to put more than 8 or 10 kids into a room, if possible. We're also looking at teachers moving rather than students moving. So if a class is split into room A and room B, the teacher may teach from room A and broadcast into B one day and then switch the next day if possible. There's going to be a lot of technical augmentation, but also just personnel moves that we're going to work with our principals on to get there. And I think it's going to be building by building and case by case. And what works at Alden may not work at Elm, but we're going to figure out a way to do it. We have options. And I think the biggest barrier to this process was the bandwidth piece, where we were worried about transmitting out to Google and back, room to room, and trying to keep it local. But honestly, our Google data is showing that we're well within bounds. And this is with almost 800 students remote learning. So we're receiving audio and video signals from 800 kids, and we're sending out for over 100 teachers. And we're able to manage it with more kids physically present on campus. That will just decrease the bandwidth requirements. That'll give us that much more flexibility.
Elliot, I have a question for you. With a lot of parents being concerned initially and now with kids staring at a computer screen all day, do you recommend using the nightlight mode on Chromebook, which shuts off the blue light? Because it does look effective. I don't know how effective it actually is, but without buying blue glasses and blue screen filters, you can just turn it on nightlight and it shuts off the blue color. It makes it a little yellowish, but it's supposed to help.
I do, and I'll caution that I have no medical training whatsoever, and all of my training is strictly in the realm of technology. I'm the personal information officer, so you can't expect me to not have disclaimers like that, right? But that said, I would say that I tend to keep my devices in night mode and in night mode or in blue light mode, and there's no harm there. I mean, the only thing that I would say that I could imagine would maybe have the fidelity affected would be like an art class or something where the colors are specifically part of the process. But unless you're studying color theory, I don't see any harm in taking those precautions to benefit our students.
Okay.
All right, Chris, are you now going to tell us how to do that?
You just go to settings and click nightlight. That's really it.
Oh, thanks.
Completely unrelated, but we're willing to engage parents, teaching parents, and our parent universities as well. So volunteers, just let me know.
Hey, Elliot, that's a great, sorry, let me take my video back on. So you just said the parent university. Is there like a night that you're setting up or something that you're setting up for question and answers, or like a video, like a tutorial for that kind of stuff that you just said?
So it's kind of multifaceted, and we've needed a couple of days of information and data to really guide that discussion, right? So I think the time that Kirsten spent with our teachers and the feedback that I've gotten and our principals have gotten from families is really informing what that's going to look like. We want to get something together sooner than later, but we've really spent the first week and even into this week collecting what it is people need help with. And I have colleagues in other districts that have really done some interesting things where they have teachers participate. They've even have some parent-teacher organizations have volunteered to put together informational sessions amongst themselves. And I wouldn't want to put that work on. I feel like that's giving away work to other folks, but certainly to engage anybody who's willing to volunteer. To Caroline's point earlier, the Ed Camp model where we had teachers teaching teachers and sharing ideas and sharing techniques is phenomenal. And I would envision that when we start to draft this process, we'll canvass our own staff for those that want to take the lead on some of these topics. And, I don't really have a lot of information as to the structure yet, but I can tell you that a lot of it's going to be the basics of navigating Google Classroom and Google Meets and even email for, helping our younger learners get on their email system. And then we can get a little bit more in depth with parents that want to check grades and have interactive sessions with teachers. We would want to meet people where they are so that we would have more rudimentary training for those that need it and a little bit more advanced for those that are prepared for it.
That's a great idea. No, that's cool. That's good.
Thank you.
I have one question. I have a feeling I already know the answer. I know that on some of these meetings, Cheryl is lucky enough to have the ability to like mute all of us and unmute all of us. Can the teachers do that?
So
it might not be like, I don't know the word I'm looking for. It might not be great for what the teachers are trying to do in the classroom. You know what I mean?
Sometimes it's necessary. There are a number of premium features that are available in Google right now and that Google is still releasing and plans to release in the next 2 months. I think Steve mentioned a couple of them earlier. whether it's blurred backgrounds or changing wallpaper to opaque where a student is. There's some shyness around that, even for teachers. I mean, not every teacher wants the kids to look into their living room either, right? But the muting feature, the administrative muting feature, is one of those things that is in development.
I think right now, though, it's great for the teacher to go, okay, everybody mute, and make sure they actually know how to do that. And then, hey, Joey, you're not muted. Go ahead and mute. I mean, it's, like I said, I've been listening to these different classrooms around the house, and there's a lot of that. Every so often you can hear like somebody says, "Oh, this one's not muted," and then they get them to do it. So it's almost like muscle training on the computer.
Yeah, I think they'll get it. It just takes practice for the younger kids.
They'll get it faster than we do.
Yeah, and there's some premium features, like I said, that are in development and that are part of the Google Enterprise for Education package that we don't currently subscribe to, but we are actively looking into. Back in June, the value add wasn't as apparent, but now that we're deep into it and we're really, I say our staff and our students are taking to it a lot faster than I think any of us anticipated. There's certainly value there, and we're looking at it. And Brian's been really helpful with helping us get there, and we're trying to get that off the ground sooner than later.
Okay.
Thank you.
So when do we? I mean, are we going to basically do? The first grade is going to have release 2 of remote learning. Are they going to try to introduce things in new blocks? Are they just going to, as they figure stuff out, put new things out for the kids? Like if I know we probably won't have a single system sign on, but if we get to something that's much more streamlined, are you guys going to develop that and then release it to the teachers? Or is it sort of, hey, we finished this, throw it out there, see what happens?
I'd like to not throw things out to 13 grade levels at one shot. But so I would say that for like single sign-on, right, I would look at specifically for Elm first. I think our youngest learners tend to be the most in need, but also the most adaptable in a lot of ways, because since it's new for them, they pick up quick. And I'll say one of the little things that we looked at today was there was a request for mice for their Chromebooks because they don't have the manual dexterity all the time to operate a trackpad. A lot of them that have devices at home use touchpads or touch screens. And so moving the mouse with your whole hand is a little bit easier than tracing your finger on a trackpad. So it's just a higher level of function that they're not always equipped with. So that's like one of those things. All right, I got to get 75 mice for the kindergarten kids.
But Elliot, that brings up a great point. I thought we had purchased all touch screens because I was surprised when the ones the ones from Elm, actually the one from Elm and the one from Alden were not touch screens. I thought that's what we had gotten.
When I got to the district, I found that we had about a cohort, maybe not even a complete cohort worth of touchscreens that were purchased in the past, but that wasn't the standardized model that was gone with. And again, the last order that we got was pre-COVID. So, if we were to one of the things that I was thinking about even just this afternoon was, okay, I have this replacement cycle in my mind that runs K-12, where I'm recycling 12th and 8th grade devices down to Elm and Alden. But what would it look like to have a cycle within that cycle for touchscreen devices specifically for kindergarten? And I really want to work that through. And I'm sharing this thought with you as I'm literally developing it today. But it was one of those things where I want to work with Mike Sotaro and his teachers to see, there's pros and cons to having devices tailored for kindergartners, because then the learning curve transfers to first grade, right? When they get to first grade, they wouldn't have that touchscreen. Or if I bring touchscreens all the way through Elm, then the learning curve transfers to when they get to Alden. And I want to do it in such a way that complements their natural development. But I also need to be fiscally responsible. Those devices are typically 30 to 40% more expensive at a unit level than the ones that we're currently using. So, it's really going to come down to a little bit of analysis and really feeling out all parties involved. I want to talk to our educators, our OTs, and everybody that can give us some feedback on what's best for these kids and if we can swing it.
By the way, I'll add, there's a huge backlog, thus delay of laptops and tablets in this country, as you can expect.
That's absolutely right. We ordered devices back in June. We got them in August. I had colleagues that were ordering devices in August, and their ETA is sometime in late November, and it's still undetermined.
I have a couple questions. So I'm a parent of kids that are no longer in the Millbrook school system, so I don't have a good handle on Google Classroom, but let me keep it at a higher level. So there was a parent that expressed kind of concern that her two elementary school age kids were not very good with the application to Google Classroom, and she found herself kind of frustrated negotiating between 10 different classroom sessions. And I'm just wondering, is our program arranged around the students in a classroom, and I'm talking about elementary, not the complicated middle school and high school where they change classes, but so is it organized around the classrooms, the kids, or is it organized around the adults? I'm just trying to understand why there's so many classrooms.
So I'll start at the primary level. So that's a good question. And if you are a parent of two students K-5, you potentially could be, a member at least in two gen ed classrooms, but then specials. And so the special teacher, if they're shared between the two buildings, is in charge of those 400 students. So they simply can't put them all in one classroom. And the content and the curriculum is differentiated by grade. We've even worked to actually combine it. Like in some areas, PE says for that exact reason, John, like, all right, so kindergarten and first grade are close enough. Let's do one classroom for them so they don't have to go somewhere. But as a parent, it's unfortunate, but you would have to, at the very least at the elementary level, access the specials in that manner. So it's not.
Why can't the special teacher come to the class, use that class, get on the classroom where they were being taught? Why does it have to end and go to a different person? Is it just control?
So then,
controls or?
But that classroom teacher may also be teaching as well. Depending on what the teacher is doing, what grade level or what they may be teaching as well.
So the adult can't go to where the kids are in the classroom. You've got the kids have to go to where the adults are.
So
are you talking about physical classrooms, John? Or are you talking about
Google Classroom
classrooms?
Yeah. So with the Google Classroom, I don't think it's designed that way, because then if I'm in a classroom, all the assignments for that grade are going to flood that room. And so I guess you would see all of my gen ed teachers' assignments, and then each one of the special teachers' assignments. And then they're not going to be able to be specific to that person's content area.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying. Like ideally, everything in Miss Dorsman's class would be tailored to Miss Dorsman, but then that special teacher is now creating very class level independent assignments, first grade level. On the flip side, which is what I was saying before, like that's why they're trying to combine. So yeah, that makes sense. But then, yeah.
It is the specials though that really cause the problem, because that's when you have to sort of leave your classroom and go someplace and then come back. It's not so much, at least from what I've seen, in the 3 grades, it's not so much the class, like their classroom, because the teachers come to them, like, the math teacher comes in and does the thing, and then the reading teacher comes in, and it's in that one classroom. But then when it's specials like library and art and music, and that's where, and that was sort of the question or direct, whatever you want to call it, I gave to Elliot earlier about trying to find a way to streamline, even if they're not in, if they have to be in a separate classroom, cool, but make it more streamlined to get in and get out and get back.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
So the way we have it set up now is if you're a primary student, you have your classroom, so you simply log into Google. And so if you haven't seen Google Classroom, maybe talk to someone who has, or even stop by and we'll show you. Once you log in to Google and you click the classroom icon, the 4 classes that you're in pop up. So it's almost as if, I don't know if you're like doing banking or some sort of ordering, and it's like, okay, there's my gen ed teacher, there's my music, there's my PE, there's my library, and you just go to it. So
And do you need the passwords to actually get in them?
no, once you log on to the Google Suite, everything that's specific to you is there.
Well,
So
except Mike, when you do like Scholastic or IXL or all those products require, I guess they require special passwords and IDs, which again,
yes,
kids have
so
all grouped together and labeled,
Right.
but you know.
you're right on that point. So there are certain tools that we're using once you get in the door.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're 100% correct. It could be, who knows, just like us in life. Like, all right, so I got into my banking, but then what's my password to transfer or do whatever? So we hear you on that point. That makes sense.
I got it, thanks.
And some of the specials weren't all, just so you know, like today I couldn't find the library to save my life. It didn't just automatically pop up. So I didn't know if like also, and John, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. On if you go to like the Elm Drive page and you go below, it's got like all the teachers' names. And I even tried to click on like Miss Bozen's name. I thought maybe that would, and I don't even know if that's an Elliot question. I don't even know if that's available. And then there was also like a link that was sent to us and I kept clicking on it. So, and I know there's, plenty of glitches. So we did eventually get there. So that's why I called Elliot 5 times.
Doesn't it allow you to auto save in the Chromebook as far as username and passwords, or do we have that shut off?
I'd have to look at that. That's exactly what I was just thinking about, Chris. Password logging versus there's third-party applications that do, perform that function. And I don't want to get into too much detail here because I want to spend some time to look into what's best for our kids. There's a number of Chromebook features that are ideal for when we're on campus that we've had to augment while they're home. The ability to log in, the ability to connect to Wi-Fi at home, those are the kind of things where password saving may not have been a good idea while they're on campus, but while they're home and they're utilizing 8 applications instead of 2, perhaps it's more necessary. So I really want to dig a little deeper into that before I can commit.
They could probably create shortcuts within the toolbar, right, for the different apps they have, so they can just click it and it would auto. That would be best.
Right, and that would save to their profile, which would follow them device to device.
Jennifer, on your end, if you have time this week, reach out to me. I just want to see what that looks like, because in our mind, it is set up like that, especially on our homepage for simplification. So if you got time, just call the office. We'll set something up.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Cool. Anything else? I mean, if there's nothing else, and I know, if you think about where we were 2 or 3 weeks ago, a month ago, to where we are now, and the teachers like just jumping off the deep end and everybody getting involved. I mean, it really has been a great story. But I mean, we have a ways to go, and we really need to take everything we've learned and put it into remote schooling 2.0. But just please make sure that all the staff knows just how grateful we are for them putting in the dedication to do this.
I was just wondering, I was just want to say, on a daily basis, I'm in awe of the team that's before you. This is exhausting work during normal times. And just with COVID, the workload and the pressure has increased tenfold. And I feel that every time this team before you is faced with a challenge, they respond with grace and intention and a "we can do it" attitude. And I find that extremely inspiring for me personally and professionally, but I think that there are inspirations for the board, the community, each other, our staff, and our children. So I just want to say it's an honor and a pleasure to be working side by side with each and every one of you.
Okay. All right, if there's any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to say thank you also. I know we said it before, but Caroline, Brian, Laura, Mike Ragusa, Elliot, my new best friend, and the principals, thank you guys a lot. We really appreciate it. You guys have been very patient and very understanding.
Very good. Okay. All right, let's see, back to the agenda. Did we have any questions from the audience on related to remote learning?
We do not.
Okay. All right. Do we have any future agenda items? I mean, we have a few that are listed for coming up sessions, but are there any other agenda items that we would like to get scheduled? I'll give you an example. The current status, and it's probably a ridiculous thing to ask with everything that's going on, but the security system upgrades. If we can get a presentation on where we are, where we need to be. And again, this doesn't have to be, it would be nice if it was back before we get back for hybrid, but if it's not, we'll keep moving forward. So is there anyone on the board that has something that they want to see on a future meeting? All right. Do we have, let's see here. We have, I don't have the motion. Do I have a motion to go to executive session for the discussions regarding particular persons and potential litigation?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay. I guess you might as well start us with an hour. Hopefully that'll do it. And by the way, I don't know how many are going to stick that are on the on the meeting itself, but thank you guys. I know the work that's gone in and the time that's gone in, and I really our teachers just haven't even blinked. So anyway, thank you everybody.
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready there, Cheryl.
We should have a vote on going to.
Yeah.
Yes, I think.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay. All right. Yeah. Are you kicking us?
Laura is, it's going slow, Perry.
It's a damn bandwidth, isn't it?
It is.
Where's Elliot?
He
She bailed.
fast.
Yeah, he bailed out. I know.
And Beth is coming in this one, right?
Yeah,
I
it
just let you know.
starts with Beth, I think. Hey Beth, you're muted.
Wait, we're still live and we're recording. We haven't moved out yet.
No, you haven't moved out yet, but do
I know. Just
do
tell me.
most of you see your invites to go
No.
into?
No.
All right, hold on.
I'd like your books again, John. You have to tell me how to get that. I have a meeting
Let me
next
get my
week.
books out. Here, I got one right here.
Yes, get that one for me. Thanks.
It's the art of war.
We got it.
Brian, just ignore your thing.
You got it, Cheryl. Thank you.